Good afternoon. This is welcome everyone. Anybody else out there wanting to come in before I get started, or are we done? All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming. And welcome to the Friends of the Library's fourth Q&A forum, which is one segment of a five-part series so citizens can meet the candidates and ask questions in a respectful environment. FOL is a nonprofit 501c3 organization, is nonpartisan, and does not endorse or support any candidate. Welcome, Richard Wills, Council Position 6 candidate, and thank you for participating in our forum today. When these forums were proposed, all of the candidates accepted the opportunity to participate. Unfortunately, at this point, 3 candidates have since declined. Participation of both candidates for a position is required for live broadcast, which is why we are not seeing North Beach TV covering this particular forum and not seeing them covering some of our other forums. Each week, a committee has evaluated the completed forums and made minor adjustments to the format. To make the forums an informative, positive experience for Ocean Shore citizens and a fair and balanced opportunity for the candidates. Any adjustments have been shared with the candidates and they have agreed to the revised format. Today's format will be divided into 3 parts. The candidate will be allowed to speak for 15 minutes maximum, and we are clocking this, about whatever they wish to share with you. The Q&A period will begin and will last a maximum of 25 minutes. We encourage the candidate to be concise while answering the question. The last segment will be 3 minutes for the candidate to make final remarks. This will end the formal portion of the forum, then allowing you time to visit with Richard. When you came into the community room today, you were handed cards by our volunteers to write down questions you have for the candidate. Has everyone had time to fill out their cards, to write your questions down? Yes? All right. Then please pass them to the end of your row, and some I think have already put them in the basket. If you have not, please pass them to the end of the row so that they can be collected by the FOL volunteer. If we have multiple questions on the same topic, I will be condensing them to a single question for the candidate to answer. This is intended so you will not be hearing the same question multiple times and for people that are uncomfortable speaking in public. If I do not ask your question exactly as you intended after final remarks, the candidate will be staying so you can talk with him. Finally, please silence your cell phones. And please refrain from talking while a candidate is answering a question, out of respect to the candidate and your fellow citizens. Anyone that doesn't abide by this will be asked to leave. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Richard, 15 minutes maximum.
Thank you, Joanne, and I want to thank all of you for coming and participating. So, Joanne has already introduced me, but I think all of you know I'm Richard Wills, and I'm running to retain my appointed position 6 on the City Council. So, without further ado, I'm going to give you a little bit of my background. I retired out of the Army after 24 years of service as a first sergeant. The first sergeant, for those of you without military experience, is effectively the chief operations officer for the unit. So, as that, I, through my platoon sergeants and section sergeants, supervised over 220 enlisted soldiers in all aspects of the military mission. anything from maintenance on the equipment to feeding all of those soldiers. After I retired out of the Army, opportunity and interest, I was able to pursue several different jobs in the effort to feed my family and keep a roof over our head. So I was a substitute teacher for a couple of years. I half owned an aerobics business. We had 16 instructors teaching 4 classes a week and 1 or 2 classes on Saturday. The average class size went from 30 people to over 100 people. It was a well-run program. I was a computer consultant and an accountant software programmer for a while. I was an EMT for the city of El Paso. I was the assistant manager and then ultimately the manager of a medium-sized fitness facility. I was a handyman and a lawn care specialist. And then ultimately I went to school and learned to become a massage therapist whose primary focus was remediating, resolving chronic pain issues. All of those experiences have given me a background, a very varied background, and critical thinking skills and logical thinking skills. You can't program unless you use logical thinking. So my wife and I decided to move to this community back in 2016. Alex, raise your hand, Alex, so they know who you are. Alex wanted to live by the ocean. She lived part of her childhood in Mazatlan and said, boy, I like living by the ocean. So we looked around and we looked at Westport and we looked at Ocean Shores, and we wanted to live in a city, not a fishing village, so here we are. When we moved here, literally, it felt like coming home. Through my childhood and through all of my military experience, I moved every few years. And so to settle down here, like Lisa said last week, yeah, when I move out of my house, it will probably be into Evergreen, and then from there I'm going home. So some of my community involvement. Well, I was a trustee. I was and am a trustee on the Fresh Waterways Corporation for over 6 years. As a trustee, we have spent dozens and dozens of hours keeping the canals navigable. We have also spent a lot of time understanding the water body and working with Doug Dorling, the aquatic biologist, and how to make our waterways better. Then I was a planning commissioner for 4 years. As a planning commissioner, the planning commission wrote or updated numerous ordinances that then went to city council to be tweaked and then enacted into code. We also completely rewrote the existing comprehensive plan. That was nearly a 4-year endeavor with all of the other things that were going on. I've been on the city council, as I said, since September of 2022. One of the things that my early experience on the council brought to my attention is I could do a better job at communicating, two-way communication. I can do a better job of listening, and I can do a better job of framing my responses. And so to become a better council member, I have read books, I have taken continuing education classes, and I have studied with a group to practice those skills. I've got a ways to go. I'm not nearly as eloquent as Lisa over here. My goal today is to channel Lisa. So Lisa, as you're sitting there, channel back. That's really all I've got to say. So I think I'm ready for questions.
Oh my gosh. Are you ready, Joy? I said, are you ready?
Oh, I've been ready. I've been prepping all week for this.
The TV camera is asking for a timeout.
Are you asking for a timeout, Scott?
Yes,
Okay.
just a second.
So, you want me to tell jokes,
Yes.
stories, anecdotes? What else can we think of? So, or we could just sit here in silence and go,
Will you tell us about yourself, Joanne?
do you really want to know? You don't want to know about. Okay, I want to share something. My neighbors all joke about my.
Okay.
Now we want to know, Joanne.
What's the punchline?
I stay behind my fence. And when my neighbors see me outside of my fence, they ask, what's wrong with my ankle monitor?
And your answer is?
I figured out how to turn it off.
I have a hacksaw.
Nah. Anyway, okay, now we're gonna go into the question period of time. And I'm looking at these questions. We've got some really good questions. We're gonna try and get through them as quickly as we can. So we're gonna challenge Richard on being concise and brief. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Community engagement. How would you engage yourself more in hearing the thoughts and concerns of your constituents?
So I'm always interested in hearing what the constituents have to say. I have my telephone number is posted online, both on the city's website and on my website. I have email, both my campaign email and the city email. I have attended several of the kinds of meetings that happen weekly. I'm considering, if I want to have that kind of meeting, and is that the best format to engage everybody in the community? There's like 7,000 people in the community, and what I see in the meetings that I've been to is only a handful of people. I want to communicate with more people, and I've been exploring and thinking about ways to make that effective. I don't know what else to add to that.
Next question. What has the city of Ocean Shores done to attract visitors to our community? And this is the city.
So let me think about that for just a moment. And the city has a pretty good website. It has recently been improved. There's both a visitors tab, a community tab, and a FAQ tab. All of those things have information on it. The city goes on the radio station and talks about some of the events. You said to keep it to the city. Well, is the convention center part of the city? Because the convention center also has a website, and they also have a calendar of events. So I think that the city is doing a pretty good job. Not a perfect job. Anything can be improved, but the city's doing a pretty good job of getting the information out. The city has a billboard up. I don't remember exactly where, but the city is attracting people, and the proof of that is how many clicks the traffic counter gets as people drive through the main gate. It's phenomenal, and it's increasing. So I think the city's doing a pretty good job. Can it be improved? Of course, anything can be improved. But specific ideas, we're advertising, we're making the community a great place to live. We are the fastest growing community in Grays Harbor County. We must be doing something right. So, by golly, what can I add to that? And on this short notice, I'm not thinking of much else to add.
What is your stand on camping restrictions? RVs, tents, 90 days, 120 days? Nutshell.
Yes. So let me expand on that a little bit. Currently, we allow 90 days camping, and I like that rule if the campground, if the camping lot is not semi-improved. And to me, semi-improved means they have water, sewer, and electricity. In my personal opinion, based on the neighborhood that I tricycle around and the campers that I have interacted with, that those campers who do have those amenities I would like to see the city council discuss increasing that allotted camping time to 120, maybe even 180 days, not to 360 days or 365 days. And the reason I think that they should have that time period extended, many of those campers are driving a mobile home that costs more than my whole property and house. They keep their camping area, their lot well maintained, and as I have engaged with them, Alex and I have a route that we cycle almost every fair weather day, and we frequently stop and talk to the campers. So they're great neighbors. My part-time next door neighbor, not as great. So yeah, I like the campers, and if they have all of those amenities, I would like the city council to discuss and come to an agreement on whether or not we should increase the camping period of time. Tents, as long as you have a hard shell body, so tenting on its own, yeah, where are they taking care of their bio needs? And the forest is probably not a good price. They're not bears. So if they've met those requirements, I'm great with that. How about if they put up a porta potty? Well, do you want to live next door to a porta potty for 6 months? Maybe not. So yes, to condense the answer, if they've got those amenities, sewer, water, and electricity, let's talk about extending their camping time. They're paying full freight on their water, their utility, their ambulance utility. I think they deserve to be able to spend more time and more money, which helps fill up the city's coffers, which then allows us to provide even more services and improve the number of and quality of our staff. That's my answer.
This one is regarding ARPA funds. You were the only council member not to vote in favor of giving $50,000 of ARPA funds to the food bank. Why?
I have to think back to that event. It was my opinion at the time that for me, a very large priority, a very important priority is the waterways. And some of that ARPA money could go to the waterways. So it was a toss-up. Where's the best place to spend that ARPA money? What I also knew is that the council would reach a majority vote, and I was perfectly okay with what that majority vote turned out to be. So I had reasons that made sense to me, and I was okay if the council said, yeah, we think differently. That's what democracy is about. And I knew that my one dissenting vote wasn't going to affect the outcome, and I wanted to stand by what I thought was the most important.
Fresh Waterways is one of your special interests on the council and for the community. Do you think the care and restoration of our waterways should be handled by volunteers or professional staff?
Wow. Yes. So as a trustee, I have volunteered hundreds of hours to the upkeep of our waterways. In the prior Water Advisory Board, the Water Advisory Board has had an almost complete turnover. So the old Water Advisory Board and the Freshwater Corporation, they're two distinct different entities, but there's some overlap. Both of those organizations recommended to the city that we hire a professional like Marshall Reed. And he doesn't have to be an aquatic biologist, but somebody who's highly motivated, highly interested, as is Marshall. And that person would then supervise those city employees whose union contract allows them to work outside of their specific job description. And it would also allow that person to coordinate with volunteers. And so rather than hire a worker bee, and who's going to supervise the worker bee? Marshall Reed? Marshall is as busy as, Marshall, if you don't know, is the city planner. And because he's a city planner, that he's all involved in the shoreline master plan and the setbacks, and to some degree that translates into the waterways. But his job is already a full-time job, and his very small staff of 3 people, another planner in training and a clerk, there's just not enough of them and enough time to go into all of the depth and detail of all of the ordinances and regulations from Department of Ecology and from Fish and Wildlife that apply to our waterways. So having somebody that's their job, and their job is to go out and survey for dangerous trees and mark those trees and then get the permit to cut those trees down. Most of those trees are trash trees, poplars and willows and that kind of thing. And I say trash tree because they suck up a lot of water and then they fall down. And if they fall down while your boat's going through, it's a sad day. So yeah. So let's hire that expert, or at least let's the council and the mayor talk about hiring that expert rather than just a worker bee. And let that expert then take over the job that the Water Corporation has been doing of asking for volunteers. That person could coordinate the volunteers. That person could supervise. That person can work out an agreement for a workboat to get out of the water and do the work that needs to be done. So I hope that's answering the question.
Healthcare in Ocean Shores. We all know that that is a challenge. Anything from the urgent care that people are talking about to home care for people that have mobility issues that need some additional support. And our EMS service. All of these issues are part of what's going on in this city. Do you have any ideas of how to improve? You got less than 5 minutes.
I have less than 5. Wow. So people have written books on the subject, and I've got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, healthcare is a sensitive issue for every one of us. The majority of the population in Ocean Shores is aging. Hospital, there was what do I want to say? A public meeting. What's the word I'm looking for?
Forum?
Not a forum. A town hall meeting. There was a town hall meeting that brought in a whole bunch of experts. And what I remember, the consensus of the experts, is Ocean Shores just does not have the population to support a hospital. The rules, the pay then was different than it was in Elma. Something about the hospital district that I've not way read up on. The Aberdeen Hospital, they're, I think, $8 million in the hole. So how are they going to bring a hospital or a care center into Ocean Shores? There are a couple of groups who have been working on bringing urgent care to the community. One group has been going to the mayor and saying, let us use the grant writer to get grants. The other group has taken the bull by the horn, has filed for their 501c3, and that filing is 5 or 6 months old. She just got some information recently that the people, whatever it is, the State Department, whoever is, they may be on the verge of approving that 501c3. That organization has a board of directors lined up. They have a plan for hiring medical staff. Once they have the 501c3, then they can apply for grants. Their plan is a profit-sharing plan, but another stumbling block is Grays Harbor County is one of the poorest counties in the state of Washington. Medical professionals don't want to move here. I heard recently that a couple of medical professionals were coming down to interview at CMAR. They got to Aberdeen Hoquiam and they turned around. And so the challenge, we all desperately want better medical care. How do we provide that? The city can zone for and encourage, but the city, I don't think, is the right entity to run an emergency care or health care facility. So I don't have a very good answer for that, except what I just said. It's a tough nut to crack.
It is. Water quality. Some parts of Ocean Shores, the residents have issues with the quality of their water. You'll hear about the black slime. What are your thoughts on how it can be addressed?
This is another really good question. And as I heard other candidates say, we all deserve to have quality water in our houses. We all deserve that. I know that the city has made great efforts to understand where the black slime is coming from. The city has tested the water at the closest source that they can test on this side of the water meter. They've also tested at some of the faucets on that side of the water meter. The problem seems to be on that side of the meter, but I'm not sure that that's 100% accurate. A thing that I have thought about, and I don't know if it's actually feasible, is what if on those problem areas and on all new construction, when the city installed a water meter, that they had a test valve there that they could take a water sample right at the city side of the water meter and then go inside the house and take a test sample at several of the faucets inside the house. And the reason I say several of the faucets, what if you had an upstairs unused bathroom and the water in that pipe stays stagnant because nobody's turning the faucets on? Then the magnesium bacteria that turns the water into black slime grows and multiplies there and then starts to infect some of the other pipes in the house. So if the city and the homeowner can isolate and say it is definitively a homeowner's problem or it's definitively a city problem, then we are better prepared to find the answer and solve the problem. But we've got to have the adequate testing. The city's done the testing, I've already said that, but the test points may not be as close to the house as is optimal, and I don't know if a test faucet at the water meter is a doable thing. I'd have to talk to Ricky. He's the person who does our water, and he would be better prepared to explain whether or not that's a viable solution or not. Meanwhile, the city has upped the ante on flushing the hydrants. Partly the problem with magnesium, with black slime, is the result of a magnesium bacteria. Our water is high in magnesium. And what counters that is chlorine. But if the city dumped a whole bunch of chlorine at the water treatment plant, nobody wants to drink out of the swimming pool. And so there has to be a balance about how much chlorine, and I'm going to lay that balance up to the experts. As the assistant manager at the fitness club, I tested the swimming pools. We had 3 of them. I tested the swimming pools 3 or 4 times every day. I understand that chlorine issue to some degree, but I don't have the expertise of the city's water personnel, and I like to rely on expertise. I'm a firm believer in science, facts, and data. Opinions are great, but opinions based on science, facts, and data, for me, they rule the roost. So I hope that answers the question.
Budget and legislation are the 2 main focuses and responsibilities of the city council. How do the council members work together to achieve those goals, and what is your role in that?
Thank you. So I have been attending city council meetings consistently for 7 years. I've watched the council process. I have engaged in the council process from both sides, now as a council member and previously as a member of the audience. When I was appointed, I realized that understanding the budget was one of my primary jobs. The other job is to legislate, to pass the ordinances that help us all live together as a community. So understanding that budget was primary and that our budget is a little bit complex, I started studying the budget, reading the budget, I took notes, I reread the budget, I took more notes, I reread the budget and said, gee, I don't understand, what are these doggone bars codes? What is that? Where do they come from? So I Googled and found some more information. Ultimately, I compiled my notes into one document. The finance director said, gee, that's a pretty good tutorial for understanding the budget, and now that tutorial is on the city's finance webpage. So that's my effort to understand the budget and contribute back to the community. How does the budgeting process work at City Council? Well, generally the council starts in like June of the budgeting year, and it's a month-long, not 1 month, it's a months-long process of talking to the department heads. And what are your needs? If you had an unlimited budget, what would you do? And then getting city engagement, and then getting council engagement. And over a 5 or 6 month period of time, we prioritize where to spend the money. And the finance director is very good at understanding where the money's coming from and how much money is available. So it's a month-long process, and I think the city council does a great job at prioritizing. If citizens have another idea for prioritizing, they should talk to the city council. I like having flushing toilets and streets. So that's my answer.
We're approaching the end of our time. We have 5 minutes left. We'll see how many questions we can do in the next 5 minutes.
So this is like that Jeopardy thing.
This is like Jeopardy on steroids. Yes. Yes. Okay, we'll do this one. Would you provide some support for the Coastal Interpretive Center to help attract tourists through the city budget or city funding?
Yes. Simple, yes. They attract people to the community and give the visitors something to do when it's cold, wet, and windy on the beach. So the Coastal Interpretive Center is in fact putting heads in beds. Yes.
Boy, that was fast. Okay. Police station. What are your thoughts of funding for a new station?
Yes. No, it's simple. We all know we need a new police station. The condensed version of how we do that, we have an expert at what the city needs in a police station. That's Chief Nucky, our police chief. And the city can go to her and say, what are your space requirements? And then the police chief can outline the criteria, and then we go to the engineers and we say, this is how much money we would like to spend, and this is our design requirements. Build us a building, design us a building that we can afford, and go from there.
How much? Oh, wow. We're doing really well. Okay. Grants. I know that we have a city grant writer. Her focus is on grants for the city. But do we have a group of people who know how to write grants, and can we bring them in to help with some of these other groups that are getting funding for various things?
Alex, raise your hand again. So Alex has written several grants for the library and also for PAWS. So she's one of them, but she's a busy person, and that's a professional job. The city recently joined the Conservation District. The Conservation District I think has 21 grant writers that we can tap into. And yes, I've heard it said that both Sarah and Conservation District are looking at the same puddle of grants, but the Conservation District has the resources and the time to dive deep and find resources that Sarah may not have come across.
Two minutes. Do you think he can do two questions?
Go for it.
You spent years in the audience at council meetings before being appointed to council. How has that impacted your role on council?
I'm glad you asked that question. I have been preparing to be voted into city council for 7 years. What else can I say?
Another question.
Okay.
What is the role of city council when it comes to the city staff? Is there any kind of interaction role? Are you involved in hiring city staff?
No. Surprise, no. It's not the city council's job to interfere with or to supervise. That's the mayor's job. And sometimes I will ask a city employee a question, and I try to keep those infrequent and brief. And if I have a detailed question, then I go to the mayor or Scott Anderson, the city administrator. That's their job. So, no.
Perfect timing. We're at the end of our 25 minutes. You now have 3 minutes to make final remarks.
As I said a moment ago, I have been preparing to be voted into city council for 7 years. I have spent time learning about the city. I spent time learning about the waterways. I spent time learning and understanding the ordinances that apply to our everyday life, lot clearing and downtown beautification and residential beautification. So I spent 7 years getting here. My opponent has spent somewhere around 7 months. I have been involved in the city as a volunteer and as a worker for 7 years. The first time I heard of my opponent was when we both applied for the position that I'm currently holding. One of us is invested, highly invested, one of us not as much. So one of us stands on a platform of science, facts, and data and legislating for what's best for the residents, the businesses, and the visitors. One of us stands on a platform of we need to talk more. And talking is important. It's important for the council to understand what the community is saying, but somebody's got to drive the boat, somebody's got to make the decision, and that's the job of the 7 council members. And my experience for 7 years is that they analyze everything that's going on and they make a decision what serves the best interest of the residents, the businesses, and the visitors to this community. I want to continue being part of that team. So you decide how to vote. Do you vote for experience, boots on the ground, the people who are involved, or do you vote for talking more? Ask yourself, when's the last time that you went to a committee with 20 or 30 people and any decision was made, any action got done? Talking is important. It's part of being a council member. But someplace we have to have action.
This ends this format this afternoon for Position 6, City Council. Richard will stay for a while to answer any questions that you didn't feel he answered adequately during our time. And I have to say, he answered all of these in 25 minutes. So thank you everyone for coming this afternoon. It has been a real pleasure to give you an opportunity to spend some more time with candidates for City Council. Next Saturday, we have our final forum, and that will start at 12:30, and it will be for the mayor candidates to come and talk to you. Please come back next week, bring your questions. It should be a very interesting conversation. And have a great weekend and a great week. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.